Chapter 2. Ilych's life has been most simple, most ordinary, and therefore most terrible. He had been a member of the Court of Justice and died at the age of 45. His father being an official who, after serving in various ministries and departments in Pittsburgh, made the sort of career which brings men to a position from which, by reason of their long service, they cannot be dismissed, though they are obviously unfit to hold any responsible position, and for whom therefore posts are specially created, which, though fictitious, carry salaries of from 6 to 10,000 rubles that are not fictitious, and in receipt of which they live on to a great age. Such was the private counselor and superfluous member of various superfluous institutions, Ilya Ivanovich Golovin. He had 3 sons, of whom Ivan Ilych was the second. The eldest son was following in his father's footsteps only in another department, was already approaching that stage in the service at which a similar sinecure would be reached. The third son was a failure, and ruined his prospect in a member of positions, was now serving in the railway department. His father and brothers, and still more their wives, not merely disliked meeting him, but avoided remembering his existence, unless compelled to do so. His sister had married Baron Grafe, Pittsburgh official of her father's type. Ivan Ilych was le phoenix de la famille, as the people said. He was neither as cold or formal as his older brother, nor as wild as the younger, but it was a happy mean between them. Intelligent, polished, lively, and agreeable man, and studied with his younger brother in the School of Law, but the landlord failed to complete the course and was expelled when he was in the 5th class. Ivan Ilych finished the course well. Even when he was at the School of Law, he was just what he remained for the rest of his life, a capable, cheerful, good-natured, sociable man, though strictly in the fulfillment of what he considered to be his duty. And he considered duty to be what was so considered by those in authority, neither as a boy nor as a man, what is he today, but from early youth was by nature attracted to people of a high station, as a fly is drawn to the light, assimilated in their ways and views of life, and establishing friendly relations with them. All the enthusiasms of a childhood youth passed without leaving much trace on him. He succumbed to sensuality, to vanity, and latterly, among the highest classes, to liberalism, but always within limits which his instinct unfailingly indicated to him as correct. And at school he had done things which had formerly seemed to him very horrid, and made him feel disgusted with himself when he did them. But when later on he saw that such actions were done by the people of good position, and that they did not regard them as wrong, he was able not exactly to regard them as right, but to forget about them entirely, or not be at all troubled and remembering them. Having graduated from the School of Law and qualified for the 10th rank of the civil service, and received money from his father for his equipment, Ivan Ilych ordered himself clothes and scammers. The fashionable tailor hung the medallion inscribed Recipe Finem on his watch, and took leave for his professor. And the prince, who was a patron of the school, had a farewell dinner with his comrades and dined at a first-class restaurant with his new and fashionable portmanteau linen, clothes, shaving, and other toilet appliances, and the traveling rug was all purchased at the best shops. He set out for one of the provinces where, through his father's influence, he had been attached to the governor as official for special service. In the province, Yuan Ilych soon arranged as easy and agreeable a position for himself, and he had handed the school of law. He performed his official task, made his career, and at the same time amused himself pleasantly and decorously. Occasionally, he paid official visits to a country district where he behaved with dignity both to his superiors and inferiors and performed the duties entrusted to him, which related chiefly to the sectarians with exactness and incorruptible honesty for which he could not but feel proud. In official manner, despite his youth and taste for frivolous gaiety, he was exceedingly reserved, punctilious, and even severe, but in society was often amusing and witty and always good natured, quick in his manner, and bon enfant, as the governor, his wife, with whom he was like one of the family, used to say of him. In the province, he had an affair with a lady who made advances to the elegant young lawyer, and there was also a milliner, and there was Crossos with aides de camp who visited the district, and after supper visited to a certain outlying street for doubtful reputation. As was too some there was too some obsequiousness to the chief and even to the chief's wife, but all this was done with such a tone of good breeding that no hard names could be applied to it. It all came under the heading of the French saying, "Fin de que je ne sais si passer." It was all done with clean hands, in clean linen, with the French phrases that above all, among people of the best society, and consequently with the approval of people of rank. So Ivan Illich served for 5 years, then came a change in his official life. The new and reformed judicial institutions were introduced, and new men were needed. Ivan Illich became such a new man. He was offered the post of examining magistrate, and he accepted it, though the post was in another province, and obliged him to give up the connections he had formed to make new ones. His friend met to give him a send-off. He had a group photograph then taken and presented him with a silver cigarette case, and he set off to his new post. And examining magistrate Ivan Illich was just as a common effort, and the decorous man inspiring general respect to the keeper of separating his official duties from his private life. It had been when acting as official on special service. His duties now as examining magistrates were far more interesting and attractive than before. In his former position, it has been pleasant to wear an undress uniform made by Scammer, and to pan through the crowd of pensioners and officials who were timorously awaiting an audience with the governor, and who envied him, as with free and easy gaits he went straight into the chief's private room to have a cup of tea and a cigarette with him. But not many people had then been directly dependent on him, only police officials and the sectarians who he went on special missions, and he liked to treat them politely, almost as comrades, as if he were letting them feel that he who had the power to crush them was treating them in a simple, friendly way. There were then but a few such people, but now, as examining magistrates, Illich, for that everyone, without exception, even the most important and self-satisfied, was in his power, and that he need only write a few words on a sheet of paper with a certain heading, and this or that important, self-satisfied person will be brought before him in the role of accused person or the witness, and if he did not choose to allow him to sit down would have to stand before him to answer his questions. Even Illich never abused his power. He tried, on the contrary, to soften its expression, but the consciousness of it, the possibility for softening its effect, supplied the chief interest and attraction of his office. In the work itself, especially in his examinations, he very soon acquired a method for eliminating all considerations irrelevant to the legal aspect of the case, and reducing in the most complete case to a form in which it would be presented on paper only in its externals, completely excluding his personal opinion of the matter, while above all observing every prescribed formality. The work was new, and Ivan Illich was one of the first men to apply the new code of 1864. On taking up the post of examining magistrates in the new town, he made new acquaintances and connections, placed himself on a new footing, and assumed a somewhat different tone. He took up an attitude for rather dignified aloofness towards the provincial authorities, but picking out the best circle for legal gentlemen, a wealthy gentry living in the town, and assumed the tune for slight dissatisfaction with the government, for moderate liberalism, and for enlightened citizenship. At the same time, without at all altering the elegances of the toilet, he ceased shaving his chin and allowed his beard to grow and replaced. Ivan Illich settled down very pleasantly in this new town. The society there, which inclined towards opposition to the governor, was friendly. His salary was larger, and began to play wind, which found added not a little to the pleasure life, for he had a capacity for cards, played good-humoredly and calculated rapidly, astutely, so that he usually won. After living there for 2 years, he met his future wife, Praskovya Fedorovna Mikhail, who was the most attractive, clever, and brilliant girl of the set in which he moved, and among other amusements and relaxations from his labors as examining magistrate, Ivan Illich established light and playful relations with her. Well, being an official on special service and being accustomed to dance, but now, as an examining magistrate, was exceptional for him to do so. If he danced now, he did it as if to show that though he served under the reformed order of things and had reached the fifth official rank, when it came to dancing, you could do better than most people. So at the end of the evening, he sometimes danced with Praskovya Fedorovna, and it was chiefly during these dances that he captivated her. She fell in love with him, which had at first no definite intention of marrying, but when the girl fell in love with him, he said to himself, "Really, why should I not marry?" Praskovya Fedorovna came of a good family, was not bad-looking, and had some little property. Ivan Illich might have aspired to a more brilliant match, but even this was good, and a salary, and she, who hoped, would have an equal income. She was well connected with a sweet, pretty, thoroughly cracked young woman. To say that Ivan Illich married because he fell in love with Praskovya Fedorovna and found that she sympathized with his view of life would be as incorrect as to say that he married because his social circle approved of the match. It was swayed by both these considerations. The marriage gave him personal satisfaction, and at the same time it was considered the right thing by the most highly placed of his associates. So Ivan Illich got married. The preparation for marriage and the beginning of a married life with its conjugal caresses, the new furniture, new crockery, and new linen were pleasant until his wife became pregnant. That Ivan Illich had begun to think that a marriage would not impair the easy, agreeable, gay, and always decorous characters of life, approved of by society, regarded by himself as natural, but would even improve it. But from the first month of his wife's pregnancy, something new, unpleasant, depressing, and unseemly, and from which there was no way of escape, unexpectedly showed itself. His wife, without any reason, the day girl, as Iwan later expressed it to himself, began to disturb the pleasure and the propriety of their life. She began to be jealous without any cause, expected him to devote his whole attention to her, found fault with everything, and made coarse and ill-mannered sins. At first, Yuan Yilich hoped to escape from the unpleasantness of the state of affairs, but the same ease and decorous relation to life that has served him heretofore. He tried to ignore his wife's disagreeable modes, continued to live in his usual easy and pleasant way. He invited friends to his house on the game of cards, and also tried going out to the club or spending his evening with friends. But one day his wife began upbraiding him so vigorously, using such coarse words, and continued to abuse him every time he did not fulfill her demands, so resolutely and with such evident determination not to give way till he submitted, that is, till he stayed at home and was bored just as she was, that he became alarmed. He now realized that matrimony and rate with Praskovia for the Ravina was not always conducive to the pleasures and amenities of life, but on the contrary, often infringed both comfort and propriety, and that he must therefore entrench himself against such infringement. And Ilych began to seek for means of doing so. His official duties were the one thing that he imposed upon Praskovia Fedorovna, and by means of his official work and the duties attached to it, he began struggling with his wife to secure his own independence. With the birth of the child, the tent faded, and the various failures in doing so, and with the real and imaginary illnesses of a mother-child, in which Yuan Lich's sympathy was demanded but about which he understood nothing, need of securing for himself an existence outside his family life became still more imperative. And his wife grew more irritable, exacting. Yuan Lich transferred the center for gravity of his life more and more to his official work. So did he grow to like his work better and became more ambitious than before. Very soon, within a year of his wedding, Yuan Lich realized that a marriage, though it may add some comforts to life, is in fact a very intricate and difficult affair, towards which, in order to perform one's duty, that is, to lead a decorous life approved of by society, one must adopt a definite attitude as towards one's official duties. And Yuan Lich involved such an attitude towards married life. He only required of it those conveniences during the home, housewife, and bed, which could give him, and above all, than the propriety of external forms required by public opinion. For the rest, he looked for light-hearted pleasure and propriety, and was very thankful when he found them. But if he met with antagonism and querulousness, and once retired into his separate fenced-off world of official duties, where he found satisfaction. Ilych was esteemed a good official, and after 3 years was made assistant public prosecutor. His new duties are important, the possibility of indicting and imprisoning anyone he chose, the publicity his speeches received, the success he had in all the things made his work still more attractive. More children came, his wife became more and more querulous and ill-tempered, but the attitudes Yuan Lich adopted towards his home life rendered him almost impervious to her grumbling. After 7 years of service in Nantong, he was transferred to another province as a public prosecutor. They moved, but were short of money, and his wife did not like the place they moved to, though the salary was higher, the cost of living was greater, besides which two of their children died, and the family life became still more unpleasant for him. Praskovia Fedorovna blamed her husband for every inconvenience he encountered in the new home. Most of the conversations between husband and wife Split as to the chosen education led to topics which recalled the former disputes, and these disputes had to flare up again at any moment. There remained only those rare periods for amorousness which still came to them and at times but did not last long. These were islets in which they anchored for a while and then again set out upon that ocean of veiled hostility which showed itself in their aloofness from one another. This aloofness might have agreed Ivan Ilych, and he considered that it ought not to exist, but now regarded the position as normal, and even made it the goal on which he aimed in family life. His aim was to free himself more and more from those unpleasantnesses and to give them a semblance of harmlessness and propriety. He attained this by spending less and less time with his family when obliged to be at home. He tried to safeguard his position by the presence of outsiders. The chief thing, however, was that he had his official duties. The whole interest of his life now centered in the official world, and that interest absorbed him. The consciousness is a power, being able to ruin anybody he wished to ruin, the importance, even the external dignity of his entry into court and meetings with his subordinates, his success with his superiors and the inferiors, and above all his masterly handling of cases, of which he was conscious. All this gave him pleasure and filled his life, together with the chance with his colleagues, dinners, and bridge, so that on the whole, Ivan Ilych's life continued to flow, as he considered it should do, pleasantly and properly. So things continued for another 7 years. His eldest daughter was already 16. Another child had died, and only one son was left, a schoolboy, and a subject of dissension. Ivan Ilyich wanted to put him in the school of law, but to spite him, Prince Calvin, Fedorovna, entered him into the high school. The daughter had been educated at home, and it turned out well. The boy did not learn badly either.